Thanks for joining me here at Math Rocks with Mr. Cox. We're going to be looking at probability again today. And supposing this question, it says 56% of people have brown hair and 82% are right-handed. We're going to look at two different kinds of probabilities. One is something like this, that the person is right-handed and has brown hair, or the other possibility might be right-handed or has brown hair. And this is the idea of intersections and unions. So if you want to find out more, stick around. So with no further ado, let's get it on. Before we even look at the idea of intersections and unions here in probability, we need to build out an area model. So what I have in this question is I have 38% of Americans use Verizon and 32% use T-Mobile. So I'm going to go ahead and write those percentages right over here. So I have 38% for Verizon and I have 32% for T-Mobile. And you'll notice I had another column here called Other, and here's why. If I were to add up these percentages, 38 plus 32, it's not 100%. It needs to be 100%. And so we're going to have to include all the other wireless carriers here too. So to do that, you're going to take 100 and you're going to subtract that 70% with those two add up to be, and that leaves 30%. So others, things like AT&T or Boost Mobile or Mint Mobile, companies like that would be in the other column here. Let's go and look at the ages. We have 27% would be under the age of 20. We have 41% or between the ages of 20 and 49. And finally, we have 32%. And if you were to add these three percentages together, you actually will get 100%. So there is no need to add an other, in this case, row here with a percentage, because already it's 100%. And then finally, what you're going to do, and I'm going to give you a moment to do it where you can pause the video, is you're going to multiply the percentages together. So for instance, if I take 0.38 and I multiply it by 0.27, I get a product of 0.1026. And then I would continue doing that for all of these here. So for instance, this would be 0.32 times 0.27, otherwise known as 0.0864. So go ahead, pause the video right now and see if you can figure out the other percentages. If you like what you've seen and heard so far, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you, and back to part two. So I trust by now you've had a chance to figure out all the percentages. So the answer key is right over here. And let's go ahead and look at what is an intersection. So an intersection is nothing more than where these two cross. So here's my first question up here. What's the probability that a randomly selected person is over 50 years old and uses T-Mobile? So here's my 50 right here, my 50 plus. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these here because any three of these could be part of our answer, because all of these would be considered 50 or older. Then I'm going to look for uses T-Mobile. So T-Mobile is right here, and any of these three would be considered T-Mobile. So once again, the intersection is considered where they intersect. So where they intersect obviously is right down here in this box. And so 10.24% or 0.1024 would actually be our answer. So I'm going to go ahead now and write in the answer over here. So we could say either 0.1024 or you could put in 10.24%. Either of those would be okay. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at the other one. The next one says, what's the probability that a randomly selected person uses Verizon and is less than 50? So let's go to Verizon first. So my Verizon would be these three right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for ones that are less than 50. When I do that, I will notice under 20s would be considered less than 50. So any of these would work. And also 20 through 49 would also be considered less than 50. So any of these would be considered under 50. So where do they intersect? Well, they actually intersect in two places, in this box and also in this box. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add those two answers together. So when we add these together, I'm going to go ahead and take 0.1026 and I'm going to add it to the other one where they intersect, which is 0.1558. And when you do that on your calculator, you should get 0.2584. And that is your answer. Of course, if you'd rather write it as a percentage, you can do that too. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, 25.84%. So either one of these would be correct. So what about unions? What's the difference between a union and an intersection? So this question is almost identical to the first one in the intersection questions. And the only difference is it's a randomly selected person who's over 50 or uses T-Mobile. So it doesn't say and, it says or. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the 50 or older. So there's my 50 or older right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight my T-Mobiles, which are right here. What you're going to need to do is you're going to look at every single box that has either yellow or green or both. So I'm looking at all of them. So I see one over here. So the answer is 0.126. Then I'm going to look at the one next to it because it has both, and I'm going to add that to it, so 0.1024. I have another one over here that has yellow only, 0.096. And then I'm going to do the one that has green only, so I have one there that is 0.1312. And then finally the one up here is 0.0864. So or means anything that in this case would be T-Mobile or 50 years or older, or both would work. So that's going to be 5 different boxes we're going to add together. And when you add all those numbers together, you get 0.5376. Or for those of you who prefer percentages, you could say 53.76%. So that works just fine, and I would recommend it. You getting some highlighters out and seeing where they crisscross, and then anything that's been highlighted, you're going to include in your answer. There is another way, though, to do this, and I'll just show it to you really quickly. You can also do it this way. You can take the T-Mobile total, which is 0.32. So that's the entire T-Mobile total of all of these added up. And then I'm going to take the total for all the 50 plus age group, and I'm going to add up these, which I know is 0.32. So I realize it's 0.32 plus 0.32. That just kind of happened to be that they're both 32%. But here's the catch. You'll notice if I do this, I would have actually added up the both twice because it was part of the green highlighter and also part of the yellow. So what you need to do is you need to subtract both. And so when you do that, you will get the exact same answer of 0.5376 or 53.76. So whatever method works for you, but once again, if you choose the last one, you got to remember to subtract out where they crisscross the intersection, and you'll get the exact same answer. I kind of like the second version only because there's a lot of times fewer numbers to add up, but they're both fine. So it really depends on you. So you guys, that's it. That's how you do both unions and intersections, and that's it for the video. Thanks for watching.